Donald Trump announces U.S. withdrawal from Paris Climate Accord. What is the Paris Climate Agreement? What does this mean for the United States? What United States departure from Paris Accord means for rest of the world? What does this all mean for climate change? GS Paper 2, Effect of Policies and Politics of Developed and Developing Countries. What is the context about? Trump announced that the United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. The US president said that the accord gives other countries an unfair advantage over US industry and destroys American jobs, especially in energy sector. From now onwards, the United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord. By pulling back, the US would scale back on the efforts to reduce greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. What is the Paris Climate Agreement? The Paris Agreement was struck in 2015 between 195 countries pledging to curb greenhouse gas emissions and keep the global temperature from rising no more than 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels over the course of the next century. As of May 2017, 147 countries had ratified the agreement. It became official on November 4, 2016. Each nation outlined its own plan to curb climate change. The plans are non-binding, so countries could continue to make changes to their plans as they see fit. US leaves Paris Climate Accord. What does this mean for the United States? Pulling out of Paris won't mean the end of all domestic efforts to address climate change. States like California and New York will keep pursuing their own programs to reduce emissions from power plants and vehicles. The United States would remain a party to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and could still participate in future UN-sponsored climate discussions. But the United States will be doing far less about global warming than it otherwise might have done. What United States departure from Paris Accord means for rest of the world. Leaders in Europe, China and India have insisted that they will carry on tackling global warming without the United States. But the precise shape of future climate talks remains an open question. Meanwhile, a core part of the Paris deal involved the United States promising $3 billion in aid to poorer countries, to help them expand clean energy and adapt to droughts, sea level rise, and other global warming calamities. Mr. Trump has now vowed to cancel all future payments, and developing nations in Africa and Asia. With the world's second-largest emitter pulling out, other countries may feel less pressure to step up their own plans to curb greenhouse gases. Other governments and industries could say, if the United States is being less ambitious, why should we take on these extra costs? What does this all mean for climate change? The 2015 Paris Agreement was meant to be a first step in the long, grinding process of slowing climate change. Even before the Trump administration's retreat, those efforts were falling far short. Current pledges, when added up, put the planet on pace to warm 3 degrees Celsius or more above pre-industrial levels, an outcome with a far greater risk of destabilizing ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica, higher levels of sea level rise, more destructive heat waves and droughts, and the loss of vital ecosystems like coral reefs. What is the way forward? Now it is entirely dependent on countries like China, the world's largest emitter, which is poised to assume a dominant role in future talks. China is investing heavily in wind, solar and nuclear power in an attempt to level off its once insatiable coal consumption. But it is unclear how far China's leaders will go in pressuring other countries to raise their ambitions. In the past, China has argued against rigorous transparency standards to review nations' progress.